The glittering lights of Lagos seemed to dance just for the elite. And inside the lavish party, a young Bola felt like a ship lost in a shimmering, unfamiliar sea. Her friend had invited her, but amidst the clinking glasses and confident laughter, she felt a profound sense of intimidation mixed with awe. Then he appeared. Chief Adebayo, a man whose age only added to his magnetism, approached her with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. He didn't just speak to her. He saw her, making her feel like the only person in the crowded room. His compliments were a warm balm on her insecurity, and her flattered smiles came easily. Later, he led her to a private balcony, a quiet sanctuary overlooking the sprawling, twinkling city. The air was intoxicating, thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and possibility. He spoke of loneliness, a surprising confession from a man who seemed to have everything. And Bola found herself utterly captivated. She awoke not to his charming smile, but to the cold, impersonal grandeur of a hotel suite she didn't recognize. Sunlight streamed through the vast windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Her heart began to hammer against her ribs. On the polished bedside table, a thick stack of cash sat next to a small folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened it. 2 words, written in a brisk, impersonal hand. "Thank you." There was no signature. The initial confusion curdled in her stomach, transforming into a wave of gut-wrenching shame and a devastating realization. She had been a transaction, a momentary diversion. The beautiful night was nothing but a calculated deception. A few weeks later, in the cramped confines of her small bathroom, Bola stared at a positive pregnancy test. The 2 pink lines were a death sentence and a life sentence all at once. Hot tears of fear and uncertainty streamed down her face, her world tilting on its axis. Yet, from that moment of despair, a fierce strength was born. A montage of her life began, a heavily pregnant Bola, her brow furrowed in concentration as she studied late into the night for her university exams. A tired but resolute new mother gently rocking her infant son Tunde to sleep. A proud woman dropping a beaming Tunde off for his first day of school. A single, happy tear escaping, she worked relentlessly, climbing the corporate ladder one rung at a time, earning the respect of her colleagues and building a stable, loving life for herself and her son. It was at a work event that she met Dayo. Their connection wasn't a whirlwind of intoxicating promises, but a slow, steady burn of genuine affection and respect. He didn't just fall for Bola, he fell for her world, becoming the father Tunde had never had. They were a trio, their laughter echoing in parks as they played football, their heads bent together over homework at the kitchen table. One evening, during a quiet dinner at their favorite restaurant, Dayo got down on one knee. With tears in his eyes, he told Bola he didn't just want to be her husband. He wanted to officially adopt Tunde and give him his name. Through her own tears of joy, as Tunde cheered beside them, Bola said yes. On their way to meet Dayo's father, the car was filled with happy anticipation. Dayo spoke glowingly of his dad, a self-made man he admired above all others. Bola's heart swelled with love for this good man and the family they were about to formalize. They pulled up to an imposing, beautiful estate, and as they walked towards the grand entrance, a strange, unidentifiable unease began to prickle at Bola's skin. The feeling intensified as they stepped into the magnificent foyer. "Dad, we're here!" Dayo called out, his voice full of excitement. "There are some people I want you to meet." A figure emerged from a study down the hall, a warm smile gracing his features. The smile froze the instant his eyes locked onto Bola. It was him. Chief Adebayo. Time seemed to shatter. Quick, jarring flashes flooded Bola's mind, the chief's face now pale with shock, her own joyous expression crumbling into one of pure, abject horror. The cold, impersonal hotel room, the stack of money. Dayo looked back and forth between the two, his brow furrowed in confusion. The silence was deafening, a physical weight in the opulent hall. Instinctively, Bola took a single step back, pulling her son, his grandson, slightly behind her. Chief Adebayo stood speechless, a statue carved from regret. Lost in the terrible quiet, Dayo finally voiced the question that would shatter all their lives. "What is it? Do you two know each other?" The silence in the grand foyer was a living thing, thick and suffocating. Dayo's gaze flickered between his father, the powerful Chief Adebayo, and the woman he loved, Bola, his heart pounding with a question he was afraid to ask. He watched as his father, usually so composed, fumbled for a response. Chief Adebayo offered a weak, dismissive lie, his voice barely a whisper. I don't believe so. She just has a familiar face. But the denial was a paper-thin shield against a truth that had already ripped through the room. Bola, unable to breathe, felt the world tilt on its axis. She grabbed her son Tunde's small hand, her voice a choked whisper. "We have to go." Without another glance, she fled the opulent mansion, leaving a stunned and heartbroken Dayo staring after her. He watched her disappear into the night, then slowly turned to his father, his expression a storm of suspicion and profound hurt. The perfect image of his family had just been shattered, and he was left standing in the ruins. Later that same night, the storm broke. Dayo confronted Bola at her modest apartment, his voice tight with desperation. He demanded to know the truth that had sent her running, the secret that now stood between them like a wall of ice. Through agonizing, body-racking sobs, Bola confessed everything. She recounted the story of a single, regrettable night years ago that had resulted in her pregnancy with Tunde. She spoke of the shame she had carried like a shroud, and her desperate struggle to build a life for herself and her son, a life that had finally felt complete with Dayo. As he listened, Dayo's initial anger began to melt away, replaced by a wave of sympathy and an overwhelming love for this strong, broken woman. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as he promised they could get through anything together. Taking a shuddering breath, Bola looked into his eyes and delivered the final, fatal blow. "Dayo," she whispered, her voice cracking. "The man from that night, it was your father." Dayo froze, the warmth of his love turning to ice in his veins. The camera of his mind zoomed in on his face as comprehension dawned, twisting into horror, and then igniting into a deep, visceral rage. He pulled away from Bola as if her touch had burned him to the soul. Dayo stormed into his father's study like a hurricane of righteous fury. The confrontation was explosive, his shouts echoing through the cavernous mansion. "She was a child, how could you?" he roared, his voice raw with betrayal. Cornered by the weight of his past, Chief Adebayo finally broke down, the carefully constructed dam of his pride crumbling completely. He confessed his sin, his words choked with a regret that had festered for years. With pleading, tear-filled eyes, he looked at his son, the heir to his legacy, and admitted the unthinkable. "I have another son," he cried, his voice a pathetic whimper. "Tunde is my son." The confession, meant to evoke pity, only deepened Dayo's disgust. The crushing realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. Tunde, the sweet boy he loved as his own, the child he had planned to adopt, was his own half-brother. His world had not just been shaken, it had been inverted, turning his love into a grotesque taboo. The aftermath was a silent montage of despair. Bola, her face a mask of resolute sorrow, packed her life and Tunde's into cardboard boxes, erasing her presence from the city. Dayo sat alone in the dark, the glow of his phone illuminating his father's unanswered calls, each one a fresh stab of betrayal. Chief Adebayo wandered his empty mansion, a ghost rattling the chains of his own making, haunted by the family he had single-handedly destroyed. Dayo came to see Bola one last time, a final, heartbreaking farewell. Their conversation was quiet, each word heavy with the unbearable pain of what could never be. "I love you, Bola," he said, his voice breaking under the weight of his grief. "But Tunde, he is my brother. I cannot marry you. We can't!" The final sequence is a study in quiet tragedy. Bola and an oblivious Tunde drive away, heading towards an unknown future. The past a scar on the horizon behind them. In the rearview mirror, Bola's stoic face is stained by a single silent tear. A final shot lingers on Dayo, standing alone, watching the car disappear. A man who has lost his love, his brother, and his future all at once. The screen fades to black on the tragic, separate fates of a father, a son, and the woman called